I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk. This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shai Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No.
No. Okay.
But it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
Do you have a gallon of milk I can also take home?
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me today, as always on Mondays, Michele Berra. Michele, where's your video? Michele, are you there?
I'm here. For some reason, my camera is not working, and now it does.
There it is.
Yay!
Panicking a little bit. One, I had to run to the kitchen during the intro to go get something to drink that I forgot. And then I come back and your videos, everything just fell apart just for like a few minutes here.
It is my punishment for suggesting in the chat to trade Dort for Moses Moody, which was a huge joke, big joke. But it's since I hate Dort, I can't joke on these things, apparently.
Oh, man. Yeah, a few trades that have been thrown about. Should we talk about them on the pod real quick, Michele?
Sure.
Just some like fun little exercises. We haven't talked about fake trades hardly at all. One, because I just don't think the Thunder are outside of Darius. I don't think the Thunder are like a real trade team right now. I think they're more of a like, let's let this roster kind of develop and let's see who is who. They may make a trade or two here at the trade deadline. I would guess that Bazley would be a part of it for Bazley's sake and for the Thunder's sake. Let the boy go.
Yeah. And there are a team where he makes sense, and probably one of the teams where we can make a lot of sense is the team that OKC faces in a few hours. I mean, he would be more than okay to play 15 minutes for a team that needs a guy that can defend on the wing and just need to take shots whenever Luka gives him the ball in the corner. That is a role that I think would be good for him. So there are teams where he can be okay by playing a certain brand of basketball. And I mean, Dallas is one of them. Probably a team like Denver does also make a ton of sense because of the fact that they need play finishers and they need a guy who can replicate 10 minutes of Aaron Gordon when Aaron Gordon is not playing. So it can make sense in a lot of places, but it can even make sense in OKC to a certain degree. But it seems that that ship is kind of sailed, and maybe the two sides are ready to basically move on.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that. It may still take time, because I mean, December 15th opens up everybody. I think roughly 90% of the league can be traded then. So that will open some things up. I don't know that the phone is ringing off the hook for Darius. And this is why you might wait until the deadline, just because people are making more calls then and people are more interested in just making little tinkering moves here and there. So I think that is in the cards this season. Everybody else, I mean, like, I just don't see anybody else on the roster. I'm like, yeah, they could probably move on from them. I think everybody else kind of makes sense here. And like, funny enough, like somebody that people might be calling on is Isaiah Joe, just to see like, hey, can we get Isaiah Joe, from the Thunder? I don't know. I don't know if he could be had. I don't know if the Thunder even want to trade him. But that's just like another kind of interesting, like if you're looking for bit pieces on the Thunder that you just kind of you wonder a little bit, like, are they going to be on this roster in the next 3 years? Like, could the Thunder actually get an asset for Isaiah Joe? Like, I don't know, probably not, but just like something top of mind.
I think that OKC should be very open in like talking with other teams about every player not named Shai, to a certain degree, Giddey, Chet. Well, Chet to every degree, J-Dub and Jang. And probably, I mean, to a lesser degree, I don't think that the team is ready to trade Lou Dort. Not for Moody. Definitely. Maybe if a splash move is ready and they really need Dort in a trade, then maybe. But again, as we discussed,
splash
many
move
times,
not ready.
No,
I'll say that. Not ready. Not this year. Not the summer. Not anytime soon. Is a splash.
I mean, I think that this is the case, but you never know for real. Like, I'm sure that the idea of the coaching staff and the front office it's to give it time.
Yeah, definitely.
But if the perfect guy comes around and you know that this is the perfect guy, I mean, it may be a tad early. I fully expect this to be
guy. Like, what do you? So part of it's hard because the Thunder ended up trading for Tyson Chandler. We don't have to relitigate that. But then Kendrick Perkins, because they knew after some time with seeing the roster that they needed a big to compete in the West. Right now, they're competitive from night to night, but they still you don't know what you need until you have Chet here.
Yeah.
Like Chet and Jeremiah could be like, whoa, like this is actually something. Or Chet and Poku could be like, oh, wow, like this is something. Mm-hmm. Or they could both be like, oh man, like neither of these guys are working with Chet. We need to go get this. That's why I just think we won't know. Not now, not this summer. And there could be a deal that's passed by that they're like, oh man, so and so is available.
Yeah,
or 23, and we didn't get that guy because we didn't know we needed him. But my guess is still that this will be a patient, long process where they're not gonna Atlanta Hawks this thing,
Yeah, and also because in total fairness, yes, the right deal may come around earlier than expected, but if the team it's not ready, I mean, what's the point? If you are a year away to start the I'm trying to compete kind of phase of your basketball of this roster, then even trading early, it's something that it's not good. And Cleveland, who I think made a timely trade, risked that a bit, but they were much better last year than what the Thunder are right now. So I think that it might be the case that a good deal comes around and it makes perfect sense for OKC. Maybe a big wing, a shooting wing, where you can say, "Wow, this is." Say that for reasons that go behind my comprehension. I mean, Phoenix wants to blow it up because after Chris Paul, that there is nothing left there, and Booker is ready. I mean, Booker and Shai are quite the pairing. You can really see that in your mind. But even that, I mean,
Phoenix not doing that.
No, of course not. And again, it puts pressure immediately. Is Chet Holmgren ready to hold that pressure? Is Shai ready? So
is the organization ready to
exactly
do that? Like, I think the answer is firmly no. Firmly no.
So you wouldn't trade for Bam tomorrow?
Heck no. Sorry. Here's the other thing is like what this team needs is to be 23 or 24 years old.
Yeah.
On average, this team needs to be 24 plus years old. to compete. You can't do that in a trade. The only thing that will get you there is time. The only thing. And we say this all the time. Adding Chet, adding another piece from the draft. We've covered some guys in the draft already this year, and there's some legitimately very good players that are going to go in the lottery outside of the top 2.
Yeah.
So,
and there might be.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No. I would say there might be a minor trade where you don't really spend an asset, and there is a non-consequent, not superstar veteran that next year or during the summer is a player that you can see fitting with this group. Maybe an experienced vet that plays the minutes that Muscala is playing right now. Maybe is an upgrade over Muscala. And you say, hey, I can consolidate some young player that I would probably have to cut anyway. And maybe a small asset that doesn't really change my timeline, because I want to have a big that can compete with Chet and push him in practice. And I want to have a veteran presence there that can talk about defense and teach to these guys how to play defense as a big man. That part, I can see that doing that earlier.
Maybe
but
it's signing a minimum free agent. Like the Thunder have proven, like, if you're going to get a free agent, like center as the spot.
Yeah.
And also, if that's really what they wanted, they may have, they should have just held on to Favors.
Yeah, I'm talking about a better player than that.
A better player than Favors. Better player than Giant Dort. You get better than Giant Dort. Another point is the Thunder kind of already made a savvy move in picking up Isaiah Joe before the season.
Yeah,
that was like a free agent acquisition. He's like the kind of player that if he was not on this roster and Trey Mann's still playing the way like he's playing, you're like, oh man, like they just need like one wing shooter. Can we just need one wing shooter? And we'd be complaining about, the Thunder never have wing shooters. Like they picked him up right before the season started off the scrap heap, brought him in. And it was a little surprising because usually whenever somebody gets released and I'm like, oh man, I really kind of like that guy. Usually those guys aren't very good. And also the Thunder are usually never the team to pick him up. And the fact that they did and they brought him in, I mean, he plays so well with this group and has better size than you think and can defend a little bit better than you think. I don't know. I mean, he played 20 minutes in that game against the Cavs. He went 3 of 6 from 3. There's a little something there with Isaiah Joe. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's something that when this team is like really competing and they want to be a good team, if he's more like, Daquan Cook played like a decent role for this team, but obviously was not like the piece, like the shooter that they needed. I just wonder because he's not old. Like he's not like a 27-year-old guy that they brought in.
How old is he? 23?
He's 23.
Yeah. And
still developing himself. I just kind of wonder about him. He's got a definable NBA skill that translates and works.
Yeah.
And the plus minus numbers are out of control. And that's just like ask Mike Muscala. This is just what happens if you're just a decent shooter, right?
Yeah. Joe
things
this year is a bit better than decent.
A bit, yeah, he's amazing.
He's elite right now.
Yeah, he's been incredible for the Thunder. Yeah. I mean, you look at what he shot from the corners. You know what he's shooting from the corners this year?
54.5%.
62.5%.
Sorry. I wanted to sound convincing, but too low.
44% above the break this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of guy that you need with Giddey and with Shai. Like we say it all the time. Like, that just needs like somebody that can be a knockdown shooter. Like, I don't know. He's that. And if he can continue to get better and just get better defensively, which I don't think he's some kind of sieve. Like he's not good. Like he would definitely get targeted in the playoffs and it would be, it could be rough, but I don't know, man. I think that when we talk about like what can this team add? Like what can they do moving forward this season? Because we love transactions. Transactions are fun. I love transactions.
Yeah.
I'm a freaking podcaster. Of course I love transactions. That's like what we thrive on here. But like that transaction happened this year, and it's probably one of the more underrated ones, and the one that we kind of take for granted a little bit. If they acquired him today, like if they traded a second round pick for him today and that he came in and did this kind of stuff, we'd be like, oh my God, we'd kind of freak out about it.
What a trade. Yeah.
But, the Sixers had to make some choices, and the Thunder will have to make choices. We can like dog the Sixers for cutting him or whatever. And like looking at the situation, like they probably shouldn't have, like he could actually help the Sixers quite a bit. But you have to make hard decisions. When you're an organization that makes a lot of good decisions, you're also going to put yourself in a position to make hard ones too. Like there are going to be players on
and wrong ones.
And wrong ones. Oh, yeah. I mean, we can go recount all the wrong decisions Presti's made in his career, and do the same for Masai Ujiri, and do the same for every other very good NBA general manager. Like it's just a part of the game, is being wrong at times. But
are you referring for Masai to the draft where we picked Barnes before Giddey?
I think I am. That's a great transition. Josh Giddey, man. Josh was incredible against the Cavs. I love the way that he played.
Yeah.
The physicality is starting to pick up a little bit with Giddey on both ends. And they found a little wrinkle within the defense that really works for him, where they're playing zone. They're playing zone quite a bit. And if he is kind of in the middle of the zone, just using his size and using his toughness, and it's worked. And it puts him in a really great position to rebound. It puts him in position to push the ball. I really like that for him and for the team. And then offensively, like his scoring has started to pick up, and he started to find little ways. And Mark talks about this. It's like, they take away your first thing. What's your counterpunch?
Yeah.
Where's your counterpunch? And Giddey is starting to, for me, I feel like he's starting to figure that out. He had 17, 13, and 6, only 2 turnovers in that game, which I think is a big thing, to have 6 assists to 1 turnover, and still Shai's getting the ball. Poku obviously had a great game too, but Josh, I think he deserves a ton of shine. I actually put together some clips today of the way he played in that Cavs game, and I loved his aggressiveness, his assertiveness in that game.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense when he spotted that ball from Allen.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking.
Yeah, it was quite the play. And in general, I mean, you could clearly see at the beginning of the year that he was kind of in search for rhythm, in search for a certain way of playing with Shai. I mean, it's not nothing to play the entire summer league. A lot of the work that he did in the summer and then preseason with certain spaces on the court, and the season start, and you have Shai, that he's basically nailing whatever is taking. Any action that you take away from Shai, it's in the eye of the fan and probably teammates is, hey, why are you taking the ball away from this guy? And it's difficult. It's hard. And he didn't start the season with in a proper way. The results were not there. And you can say that part of the process was not there. But I mean, after a while, you could start seeing him taking moments in the game when Shai was off to really shine and to be the version of Josh Giddey that we saw from time to time, or the majority of the time last season. And then it started to click also with Shai, which, I mean, Shai and Giddey are starting to play for each other, to search for the other one with the ball in their hands. So I really think that he's trending in the right direction. It's very early in the season for him. I think that to see the actualized version of Giddey, we will have to wait a couple of years at least. But the fact that right now, against good defenses, I mean, the Cavs are a good defensive team, especially without Mitchell. They lose quite a lot in terms of offense, but defensively, you can say, hey, they had a very good lineup out there. Yep. And Giddey was very good. Very, very good. So I'm really pleased to see that he is improving. And last night, 2 nights ago, he missed a ton of bunnies, like stuff that I'm sure in 2 years he will probably dunk or he will not miss, because this is just the life in the NBA. These shots are shots that you miss when you're young and then you don't miss at all. So it can be better. You mentioned Poku though. We need to give him a little bit of love.
Man, I'd given a Poku a ton of love, and then he kind of had this little slump. You start to doubt yourself a little bit. You're just wondering, did I make all that up? Did I make up all this Poku stuff up? Was I fan fictioning myself into this early in the season? No, I was not. He was incredible against the Cavs. Controlling the paint, I thought he was really, really good. The defense was there again. The physicality is about as good as Poku is going to get, especially against that front line. I feared for everybody on the team against that front line. And the thing about it was that none of those guys feared those two. Like Poku didn't, Giddey didn't. They were attacking. They were playing them tough. I mean, the points and just the general touch that Poku played with the other night was tremendous.
Yeah.
But the 14 rebounds, like, holy smokes.
Yeah. He was very active.
Alexei Pokusevski had 14 rebounds in an NBA game. I mean, if you would have just bet.
Say it one more time.
Alexei Pokusevski had 14 rebounds. If you would have bet on draft night and you just look at him and say, is that guy going to have 14 rebounds ever in a game? I think most people would bet no. Like that's not going to happen.
Especially after like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Of him playing basketball. Yeah.
Or just watch one season. And I just don't think so. He was awesome in this game.
Yeah.
The shot falling it definitely helps everything look better, but 5 assists, 14 rebounds.
Yeah.
He was so impressive.
And the blocks.
The blocks were very impressive. I actually posted some video of his blocks this morning. And he's really figuring out how to use his length, which is something that he kind of struggled with, honestly, to start his career, is kind of knowing how to use it. And he would use it more in with verticality last year, where they had him kind of just stand at the rim with his arms just straight up. And I feel like, I don't know, that was a process in helping him get there, but he now can move about the paint and understand where he needs to be to contest a shot or to block a shot. And that is just a little different. It's a different wrinkle for Poku. He was connector Poku. He was the defender in the paint that you needed. And this is where you just start to go to fan fiction again. You start to imagine like what it could be like with him and Chet. And it felt like a joke at first. It felt like, the Thin Towers or whatever. It's like, that's so lame. Like, that's not going to happen. Get yourselves ready for it, because the Thin Towers might be a real thing.
Yeah. I think that they will play together.
They better.
Quite a lot, because it does make sense. I think that Poku right now is really starting to get comfortable in playing the big man position alone, especially when he has good point of attack defense. We have to say that, because whenever Poku is good is when guys are funneling opponents in a certain way, which was also the case. The reason why Perk was so great with Ibaka and with Thabo, because the three of them, they were just able to funnel guys towards Ibaka every single time and not allowing them to be effective in other directions. So that
a lot of people just completely forget Thabo Cephalosha in that mix. And they think
Thabo was extremely important.
Oh my goodness. He was, and in the same way, support is so important. There's a difference between he and J-Dub and he and, Giddey. There's just a huge difference in those guys. And just like we were frustrated with Thabo, we were frustrated with Andre, frustrated with Dort, but like you can't replicate what Dort brings at the point of attack with just anybody.
Yeah. Basically can to some degree, but to some degree and against a very specific type of player. He can be good against player with size. He was also good with against Garland. But you need to have players like that. And Poku right now is making the most of it, because if you funnel the guys in the right direction, he is really, really good at taking at picking the time to block shots. Offensively, I mean, you can be worried when a guy that used to be a streaky guy goes into a bad stretch. But I was talking about this with John the other day. It's 23 games. It's not nothing. It's the longest streak that we have seen Poku playing good basketball. And it's not good in terms of shooting. It's insanely good. We are talking 40%.
41.7% from the corners, 39.6% above the break from three.
It's extremely consistent, which is, again, he can have 10 days where the ball doesn't go in. It happens to everybody. Shai is in a huge slump right now, but we are not worried about him. We have history with Poku, and so we are kind of more worried about him. But 23 games, again, it's almost an entire season in Europe, where you can use it to project guys' players' production.
Yeah, that's college basketball season almost.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this is all you get.
Yeah. And again, we have to remind everybody, and I think it's crazy to think about that Poku is 6 months younger than even Mobley. Mobley is much better. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to compare the talent. I would pick Mobley to tomorrow.
See where Poku is in 6 months. We'll find out. I don't know.
but this proposition needs to be discussed at least, because Poku was not as good as Mobley for the season. He's clearly not as good as Mobley. But the difference is way less than what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and he's younger. And Giddey is 1.5 years younger. So we really need to think about these players. Yes, they have a lot of NBA experience already. It's 3 years for Poku. It's 2 years for Giddey, almost 1.5. But still, they are extremely young. And as Unhandy Train says, we need to talk about Usman as well. Yes, Usman is the same. Extremely young.
Yeah, I mean, Us is playing well with the blue in this little stint, and had like building confidence with the Thunder as well. And so, I'm interested to see what Us can do when he comes back.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's a little bit frustrated, to be honest with you, the fact that we are not seeing him play with the grown-ups, because he was having a good stretch of basketball, and now he's on the blue. Again, we said it many times. We don't think, and we are almost sure that this is not production related, is predetermined well in advance, and so these things happen. I mean, when you have a development plan for a player, it might be an unusual plan, where it's a little bit on the G League, a little bit on the regular team, but the fact that he can have 38 minutes with a G League team, where he can do more with the basketball in his hands, because even on the games that he played and where he succeeded, for example, Atlanta, he was not handling the ball too much. He was just shooting the basketball from a standstill position, leading the break once, and it's not the same as handling, 30 possessions in a game. 25 possessions is basically being a play finisher, a high-level play finisher, and getting reps on defense. And I think that giving him a steady dose of doing a little bit on a limited role with the Thunder, and doing a lot on a different role for the Blue, that is still a good way to develop him. There is a question of Alex Bolajek that says, can we call up and let Trey rehab with the blue? Calling up Usman Jang and having Trey Mann playing with the blue. I don't think that Trey needs that. I think that Trey needs to just have a few games where the shot comes back to him, because I can't believe that the shot's not going in for the foreseeable future. I mean, it's something that it is not working right now, but it will work in the future. He's too good of a shooter to have this kind of percentage. He was shooting 37% from three, and you could argue that the last year he took worse shots than he's doing right now. Maybe one way to get the shot back where it was, it's to just taking a little bit more split up shots, because right now is really all the time step back, step back, step back, and maybe doing a little bit of variation to that. It's something that may bring him back to usual percentage from 3-point range. He has a lot of ground to cover because he's shooting on the 26% from three. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but still, I think it will be back. Since Andrew is trying to come back, I will answer a few questions. One from Kirk T here on the stream. Does Trey have any trade value? Sure he has. It's too early. I mean, we were discussing on the chat, on the Down to Dunk chat, about Moses Moody, and we were discussing value. And I mean, how much value does Moses Moody have? To me, it's not a first-round pick, or at least not a good one. But maybe in someone else's eyes, it's just year 2 for Moses Moody. It's very early, and they might be willing to pay more, Golden State, to just pull the trigger. Maybe a good veteran and a protected first. To me, I don't see that value, and probably the same concept may apply to Trey Mann. We saw him torched good defensive teams last year. We have seen him playing very well at the beginning of the season, and right now is kind of lost. How that goes into value, it's difficult to say, but I would probably not trade Trey Mann for a second-round pick if I was OKC. For a first round, maybe, but only if I think that my development plan for him is not going where it should. And we don't know that. We are witnessing a poor shooting stretch for Trey Mann that is lasting too much. But there are stretches like that. I mean, Dort is not shooting with the basketball well. He has up and downs. And you can say that OKC has a lot of patience with him. It's probably due to the defensive side, but still, offensively, he hasn't been very good. From Alex Boulderjack, which players do you see as a top 5 play finisher outside Shai? Top 5 play finisher outside Shai on the roster? I think that Chet would be number 2 with time.
Maybe even number 1.
Maybe number 1 is a play finisher. I mean, if you look at the percentage, Isaiah Joe and Poku are very good play finishers right now. And probably also J-Dub. Hey, you're back.
Hey. Sorry, I was coughing up a lung over there. Okay. Where are we at? What are we talking about? We talking about Us a little bit?
Yeah, I discussed a little bit about the strategy of sending guys back to the G League, and Alex Bolajek was asking, hey, shall we send Trey Mann there to rehab? I'm not sure, to be honest. I
don't think they'll send Trey. I think
no.
They're confident in the way that Trey is preparing.
Mm-hmm.
I think is important to know that it's not. Yeah, the preparation is not meeting the expectations of the games yet.
Yeah.
At some point, I mean, he's still pretty young. They're not worried about him. Also, not everybody's going to be good. Not everybody's going to work out. But I don't think Trey's going to be this bad. He played really well at the end of last season, and I expect to see more of that at some point.
But even at the beginning of this one, it was not bad.
No. I think he's just in a major slump. For what reason? I don't know. I think some of it is, I think the back was a big thing.
Yes.
You ask any player, like if you have a back issue, like it's going to hinder you in so many ways, especially shooting outside shots.
Yeah, and shooting shots that are not standstill shots where you have to really contort your body a little bit. You have to fake, you have to probe and then pull back. It's not the easiest way. Again, maybe I'm finding too many excuses for him because I really like him. But I would give time because, again, suppose that a team gives you a first for Trey Mann tomorrow. Is it really worth it to go that direction now? I mean, to just put another asset going forward, and I mean, it doesn't seem right. I mean, give the guy time. You probably can keep him for a year or two at the end of the bench and just wait. They don't have the rush to circle in too many guys. They will probably have to consolidate a lot in terms of picks and guys that come in the coming years. I expect them to do more Usman Jeng moves in the draft because they can. I mean, and if spending a pick allows you to pick the guy that you like, knowing that you will cut less guys probably going forward, do that.
Yeah, no question. And then with the G League, I mean, this is similar to what they did last year with guys, is that they just have a schedule and they play guys that G League schedule and they don't deviate from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what it is. You know, they send them down when it's time, when they pre-plan to send them down, and they'll bring him back up when they pre-plan to bring him back up. I mean, that's just the way you guys' plans are.
And I guess that if he blossoms earlier than expected, say that after All-Star break there is a 10-game stretch where he's supposed to be with the Thunder and he plays great and he's just wherever. I mean, I'm sure that they will change plans, mainly because after All-Star break, G League is not active. But even if it was, like, it can be the case that, hey, right now you do 10 days here, 10 days there. But everything is subject to, hey, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and he's played well. He still has a really long way to go.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, it's just the way that this roster is constructed. It's like everybody still has a long way to go on this roster. Outside of Kenrich and Muscala, like everybody still has a pretty long runway, including Shai. You know, Shai's got things that he's got to improve on too. And teams are just loading up on Shai night after night. And this is going to be a really tough year for Shai. And he's going to have to get better and better. And he's going to have that counter punch. And this year's going to help him do that. It's going to help him really figure out how to improve his game. I mean, this is what we talked about Devin Booker earlier. This is what Booker had to go through.
Sure.
Before he became like the great player that he is now, he had to go through some of this stuff. And all the while, I mean, in that Cavs game, Shai didn't take a ton of shots.
No.
Some of it was that they weren't there for him. And some of it was that he genuinely is trying to help this team grow together. I mean, he moved off ball. I mean, some of Poku's assists were to Shai.
Yeah.
Because Shai is learning how to move off the ball better.
Yeah, I also think that you really can't. Well, now you can because you are experimenting to a wild degree. But if it happens again in the future that Shai goes 5.5 minutes without take a shot, that is not good. Like unless this is, hey, Chet Holmgren is cooking and it has like one half like the Utah game, the Utah Summer League game, where it's just, hey, feed me, I will cook. Then it's okay. But when nothing is working, the fact that you get 2-3 get a shot, 2-3 Dort shot, and maybe some ill-advised layup try.
Yeah.
No, that cannot happen. It can happen now, but it can in the future. And to your point about Shai learning from this year, I think that Shai showed the league that he's fully capable of leading a team on offense by creating everything for himself. The evolution of Shai will be forcing his teammates to feed him by sheer of movement, by being in the right place, by cutting. I mean, I had the feeling when I was watching the beginning of fourth quarter, where the ball was moving very quickly from hand to hand, and it was just cut over cut and movement and shot. That part of the game, when Shai's on the court, is still lacking a little bit. So I think that the evolution of Shai is like being more of an off-ball threat. And there was a comment on the chat, I don't remember from whom, was saying, hey, Shai needs to move better off the ball. I agree. Because if that happens and the difficulty of the shots lowers a little bit because Chet is there, because Giddey becomes a better scorer, but also because he creates more with his movement, then this will be the actualized version of Shai. I don't think that this version of Shai is sustainable in the long run. It doesn't lead to winning basketball in general. It has to be more organic. And I think that he knows that.
Well, and not with this team either, though, is part of the problem. Like, if you gave him a team like James Harden had with Houston, where it's like shooters, wing defenders, Clint Capella sitting screens, then, like, okay, maybe it would work. And maybe they could be like the 5 seed or something like that, you know? And that would be really, I mean, honestly, it'd be really fun. I think it'd be great. What the Thunder want to do is be a lot better than that and play. They want to play different than that. But if all you had was Shai, and you didn't have all these picks, and you didn't have all this stuff, and you're like, okay, what can we do here? Well, go and get a center like Capella. You might even be able to get Capella, from Atlanta if you wanted to, but like get somebody like that, and just get guys that are going to hit from the corners and the guys that are going to space out the offense. He could do that. He could be that guy. But you also have to remember, like, the most success that James had outside of being on this team when he was really young was whenever they brought in another ball handler and Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Like, that's when things changed. That's when they went from being like a really good team to being a title contender and nearly knocking off the Warriors. It was because you had this ball dominant player and you brought in a guy like Chris Paul. Now, the Thunder, I mean, Giddey's not Chris Paul, and I'm not trying to make that comparison directly, but I am wanting to make the comparison that, like, they have this playmaker. He's very different than Chris, but this big playmaker that is learning how to score. He's learning how to do a lot of things in the NBA. But it's that kind of player that changed James Harden's game and made him so much better. Was it natural when they made the trade for Chris? There was a lot of skepticism out there on whether it could work. Like, it didn't make total sense. It was like, okay, it feels like Daryl is just trying to get another star in there, or this was just like who was available and he was just willing to throw whatever.
Yeah, I think that me and you, we discussed, hey, Russ and PG are a much better fit.
It made more sense on paper. It just made more sense than Chris.
And they were a good fit. But Paul was a much better fit than many anticipated. And you can, if you don't want to go to Harden and to that style of play, think about Milwaukee. I mean, the Bucks had the same issue. They are very, very picky about their role players. Everyone needs to be able to defend to some degree and to shoot the basketball. Otherwise, you are not a Buck. You will not play for Bud. But the different move was to pick Drew and to just give a variation to the opponents, because Giannis is a great player. He's an incredible player, much better than the majority of the players in this league. But if you allow the other team to cheat on at least two of the other players, it becomes easier to play a team like that. Yeah. And it took a while to develop a different brand of basketball, which is not, it doesn't vary too much, but it's much different from Giannis attacking one-on-one and just having spacers. They have spacers because you need to have that to maximize Giannis. And I think that OKC will do that. They show to everyone that they care about shooting. I mean, Isaiah Joe, Trey Mann, they are shooter. Jalen Williams is a player that was shooting 40% in college. And he's not shooting the ball well now, mainly because he wants me to win a pepperoni pizza, but he will do that in the future. So I think that to come back to Shai, the actualized version of him, the best version of him, is one that takes 10 isolations and 15 shots that are created for him.
Yeah. James Anderson in the chat, he says, can Andrew explain why even next summer we're not tanking anymore? If a great deal came up to pair it with Shai and we're not tanking anymore, why wouldn't you do it? I think there's a combination of things, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but this team is just not ready to win yet, like at a high level. Like that to me is like the main point. Is you make a trade in the summer. We saw the Pistons do it to a lesser degree, like with Bogdanovich, and the Pistons weren't ready for that move. They weren't ready for it. They're not ready to win. That team's not ready to win. And there were expectations placed on that team, and they have definitely not lived up to those, and those expectations have certainly gone out the window. But this Thunder group isn't ready either. I mean, the kind of player it would have to be to just like you're ready to just dump assets to get this guy. It would have to be a very, very high level player. And sure, I think any GM would be ready and willing to do that. But who is that? And what team is ready to do that? You know? I don't know. Like, I don't honestly, like if it's the Timberwolves, they're like, we just got to blow this thing up. Like, I don't really want any of those guys on the Timberwolves on this team. And Anthony Edwards is not going to be one of the guys, by the way.
Say that the Boston Celtics are losing in the finals again, and there is a major problem between Brown and Tatum, and Brown is after you for 3 first-round picks, Lou Dort and Josh Giddey.
That's a good one. That's a good scenario. What would I do? Jaylen Brown is an interesting personality. Would be my very first sentence that I would say.
It's a very diplomatic way to handle the deal for now.
I would say that I don't, that type of player, sure, but the baggage that would come with it, and you go like you're trading Shai's best friend for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, okay, Grape Ape. I know that it's unrestricted. We are just making fake trades to create an alternate reality.
Yeah, I mean that kind of player, sure. I mean, who else? Like, who else would? And honestly, like, if you're the Celtics, like, you're just like settle down. Like, you guys are still so young. Like, we're not breaking this up.
Sure. I mean, to me, the perfect player is a wing that can shoot and has size. That is the perfect player to pair with Shai.
Okay, just go with me for just a second.
Okay.
Just let's go on a
journey. For the guys that are just listening to the podcast, Andrew seems very focused on what he's about to say.
Let's go on a journey.
Okay.
The Clippers call, and they say, "We just want our picks back." And Josh Giddey, but we'll give you Paul George.
No, I was almost on board with the picks because I know where you were going, but no Giddey. No, it's Paul George is too old.
I know. It just would be the most comical full circle moment ever. Yeah. What if it was just like, just give us our picks back. We need to tank. We just need our picks back, and we'll give you PG.
I would actually think about that. I think the PG would be awesome with Shai.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're really like what you're saying, like a wing defender that can really shoot it. I don't know. That's PG, isn't it?
Like, take a unit that has Shai, Giddey, George, J-Dub, and Chet. That's a hell of a lineup. I mean,
again, they're not ready to win. They're not ready to do that kind of stuff.
They will win a lot. I mean, with that unit, they will win 50 plus. I can almost, if PG is healthy, I can almost bring it to the bank.
Yeah, that's a big if. It's a big if.
Yeah, it's a big if.
There's been
just imagine a 40% shooter.
Just for the record, I would not do it. I don't think this team is ready for that. But that's just a funny thing that I don't know. It's probably unreasonable. But if you're the Clippers and Kawhi is like, he's just done, he's just cooked, which could be a reality.
Yeah. This suggestion I really like from the chat. What if they offer OG because everything that the Raptors thought that they could do, they are not able to do it.
Yeah.
They're ready to move back to tanking. He makes a lot of sense.
OG is super.
It kills me thinking that we could have had him for.
They could have just had him. They could have just had him instead of T. Ferg. You could have just had him. I know that there are circumstances that led to that not happening, but still, it could have happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Send Lou to Canada. He can be Toronto's hero.
Part of me is wondering, though, like any sort of unhappiness that's happened with OG, would that vanish here? Because, I mean, it's been about roll. It's been about shots.
Why always the Grinch? Like, it's Christmas. Allow us to be happy instead of just thinking about this, like, completely unimportant things, like the fact that he chose not to give OKC medical records, and so he clearly doesn't want to come to OKC. Let's forget about these things. Let us dream. Hey, maybe Amen Thompson is the answer, or the other Thompson.
I was gonna say, what about this? What if it's Jalen Williams?
He needs to shoot the ball much better than what he is right now. But yeah,
I mean, clearly, yes, he's not shot the ball well from deep. That is, he's been incredibly efficient inside the arc. He's 61% from 2.
Yeah,
I mean, he's awesome and just doesn't take up very many possessions, and is almost always efficient.
Yeah.
So
I want him to just take more shots. Period.
I do too. I want him to do that. Also, like, what if Oos is that guy? Like, we expend all these assets next summer. This is like another answer to James is like, what if you expend all these assets next summer? You have all these possessions going to these guys, and then Ousmane Dieng or Jalen Williams or somebody starts to emerge, and you're like, oh man, like we don't. This isn't like he's going to be as good as that guy. And now, like this is why you wait, and this is why I said earlier that like what the Thunder really, really need is time.
Yes,
it's not a player. It's not a free agent thing. It's not a trade. What they need right now, today, is time. They need time to develop, time to just be. What this team needs is not the average age of 22, the average age of 24.
Yeah, and it can happen that in the future you kind of decide that development is not what you need, but you need help now. Again, Cleveland decided to give away the 14th pick in the draft, Abaji, Markin, Colin Sexton, and I don't remember how many picks to get a great star. Can Sexton be as good as Mitchell in 2 years, 3 years? I don't think so. Can these 3 players together bring enough value as Mitchell? Maybe. I still don't think so. If a trade like that comes by, where you have Dieng, you have J-Dub, you have Trey Mann, you have Giddey, and you think that X player is much better than the combined value of these players, you just pull the trigger. If you think that player works, and if you think that you can retain that player in the same way that you can retain a talent like Giddey, because this we don't discuss much, but retain a player in some market is pretty difficult. You can do it if you are Drew Holiday and you are in Milwaukee and you're winning and you have a chance to win a title, then you probably do it for the length of the contract and then you decide. With Mitchell, we'll see. Because if the Cleveland Cavaliers are good enough early, he might sign again, but maybe not. So it's also about retention of talent.
No doubt.
That's why you don't want to do it too early, because if a star comes and the first year you go to the finals, that's a hell of a start. And maybe the year after you say, hey, we haven't had that luck, but we were there a year ago. And so you elongate the window. If you start and you just win 25 games, 28 games, 30, not even 28, it's too low. 42 games.
I was going to say
45 games.
48.
48.
Yeah.
Is that enough to keep a guy like a top 10 guy in OKC? I don't think so.
Look at what's happened in Atlanta. Atlanta made the Eastern Conference Finals. A lot of it was because that Sixers team is an absolute mess. The Sixers should have never lost that series. They did. It happened. Great. Atlanta pushed that friggin' button. They pushed it early. They thought, we got the guys. We got the guys that we need. Let's go. We've got our guy in Trey. Let's just go get all the pieces that complement him. And they're having growing pains and issues that young teams have, that guys under 24 have. Like, this is what happens when you're not ready to win. They got beat in the first round by the Heat pretty badly. They are struggling this year. They've had good moments. They've had some of the worst moments in the league this year, outside of the Brooklyn Nets and the Lakers. You know, it's not good. It's not a great situation.
Yeah.
And instead, if Atlanta had just held back and they would have built a little bit slower and they would have allowed themselves to be involved in the 21 draft, maybe they're not in the 22 draft. Maybe they made the playoffs the following year, but you have more running mates. And they are desperately they've been trying to trade John Collins for a long time. They can't find a deal that works for them. But I'll tell you this, having a player in trade rumors for every single Shams inside pass, not a good thing. Not something that you want. They have more organizational problems too. Like there are leaks everywhere with the Hawks.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the Hawks business. And that's not a good thing. Like that's what something the Thunder do really well is like they don't let people know their business. They don't let people know if there's issues going on inside the locker room. It's great. You don't, as a fan, you wouldn't want that stuff out there anyways. But there's a lot of issues in Atlanta. One of the issues I feel like they had is they pushed that friggin' button. They brought in Gallinari. They got Clint Capella. They made all these moves to win now. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's nice. But are they going to get back there this year? I don't think so.
Hard pass. No, I don't think so.
Do they have a chance to get back there next year? I mean, they signed DeJounte Murray. Or they traded for DeJounte Murray. Like they pushed the freaking button. They can't stay away from the button.
Yeah, they pushed the chips twice.
Yeah, and you just wonder, like, is that enough? Have they done enough? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah, what's the next move?
Yeah, what do you do? This is why you don't do this. This is why the Thunder won't push the button this summer. This is why the Thunder won't push the button unless like Giannis becomes available. Or Luka, they lose in the first round, and Luka's like, I'm out, I'm done. Get me anywhere else. Anywhere but here. Then yeah, push the button. Like that button is ready and available. It's one that is not ready. I mean, it's not one if Luka is probably gonna be like, hey, I have two teams I want to go to and they're on the East Coast. Or Giannis is like, yeah, I want out.
And it's Boston and Boston.
I mean,
and maybe the Celtics.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I just think you're not going to press the button unless it's for like a top 5 player in the league.
Yeah.
Those guys don't become available. And when they do become available, they get to decide where they go.
Yeah.
Also, Kevin Durant's too old.
Well, if he wants to sign as a free agent when the team is ready, I think that everyone will.
I've already said yes. I'm fully on board with that. That is acceptable. That's an acceptable outcome. Kevin, if you want to sign here for a league minimum, we'll let you. We will allow
even for 20, 30, 25 million. So you can actually make financial room for a guy like Kevin.
League minimum, we'll allow it, Kevin. Just putting the feelers out.
Back our feelings.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we'll let you come off the bench for our championship behind Usman.
Yo, P.
Okay, we'll let it happen. We just don't worry, Kevin. We will save a spot for you. You and Isaiah Joe will come off the bench, and you guys will be just lights out from 3 together. It'll be great. It'll be great. Okay, the Thunder play tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, the last game of this 5-game road trip, and then they are home for a long time. So it should be a fun homestand. I'm interested to see how they play. I think a lot will be determined about this team over the course of the next few weeks.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to figure out where they're at. The Western Conference is super smashed together. Who knows? I mean, 2 weeks, a lot of things can change within the entire conference. Could determine whether we're looking at another top 5 pick or 8 or 9, or even 14. Who knows? Who knows? But
it's the first time that you say 14. I'm impressed.
It's the first time, there's a range of outcomes out there in this world. And the Thunder, there's a lot of them. I still think we're closer to 8 or 9, as would be my guess. That's where we're going to be. But I would not be mad about a 4 or 5 outcome. I would actually be quite happy about that just from watching some of these guys in this draft. So, all right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll have another podcast for you guys with Alex Pierce Wednesday. Enjoy the basketball tonight against the Dallas Mavericks, and we'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday.